Hey, what's up guys? So today I'm going to be taking you through a quick 15 minutes or so hip mobility routine. Let's get started on the mat. So we're going to start sat on the floor and we're going to move into a 90-90 position. So this is keeping the legs between each other and trying to keep the body upright. And we're just going to start by doing some rotations between this, really to get some movement into the hips, especially if you've been sat around for quite a while, then working during the day. It's going to be a really good routine for you to just do, even every day, but at least every couple of days, just to get some more movement into the hips so you're less likely to cause any kind of injuries as you get older, and just to feel better as you're moving about your day, really. So we're going to do this about 10 times or so on each side. And the next exercise we'll be doing after this is going to one side, and we're then going to lean over onto one side. So if we select one side and we're going to lean onto the side, and you might need to put your hands on the floor depending on how much mobility you've got. We're going to aim to twist the whole body facing towards the front leg, and we're going to lean forwards and back, forward, trying to keep the back straight the whole time. You don't want to round. Then we're going to flip and go on to the other side and do the same thing again. And I'm losing some tightness after stretching a lot yesterday, so you might find it more difficult on one day to another. If you are, you can put your hands down, but just trying to keep the hips square. You don't want to be leaning out like this as you go down. You're trying to keep the body facing towards the leg that's parallel to you. And then we're going to get up and move into a Malasana Squat. You may find that if your hips are really tight, you might struggle with this kind of pose and being able to keep both on the floor, in which case grab like a magazine, book, or potentially a block. You can just set your heels on just to make it that bit easier, so you're able to keep your chest facing upwards. So, sat in this Malasana Squat, we're then going to twist the hips, bringing each knee in. I'm going to do this 10 times. You probably noticed that I do generally say 10 on a lot of these exercises, and it's just enough to get enough movement in. We're trying to move through range of motion today. We're not going to be sitting in any particular pose for very long. The reason for that is that often when you're holding a static stretch, especially when you haven't got much flexibility to begin with, it's very hard to ensure that you've got a good range of motion in. And also, while you might feel like you're stretching more to begin with, it generally trains the neural patterns in the body less, and so you'll get more flexible straight away, but then you're less likely to be able to maintain that flexibility over time. So, next exercise, we're going to take our left hand and place it in between, palm facing out, and open out, push away the opposite knee, so my right knee. And all this time I'm trying to push back with my elbow into my left leg, or pushing out, and really feel it right here in the abductors. Switch. Now we've done that, we're going to go into some Cossack squats on either side. To do this, we're going to open the legs out so that you're a bit wider than hip distance apart, more like a wide straddle. And then we're going to lean into one leg. And you might not go too far. And I think here the main key thing is not collapsing too much. We're going to try and keep our chest upright as we do it and move from one side to the other. And I'll suggest feeling around. In terms of this foot lifting up, it's probably a little bit easier to lift the foot up so it's flexed. A bit more challenging to be able to keep it down, especially in terms of how much range of motion you can get. But I would suggest try both really, and just see which one feels better for you and which one feels more challenging. So I'm going to do a couple more. And then on this last one, I'm going to see if we can grab a block, something to keep us upright. I'm just going to try and move around in this position. Might have to hold down on the floor more. Just trying to find some area of tightness. Try and really breathe into it throughout this. Just try to breathe through your nose all the time. I'm going to switch to the other side. There's no particular rhyme or reason to it in terms of you just trying to move through. Just find some area of your hips, psoas that's particularly tight, and then be able to move into it. We're then going to come to one side of the mat, and we're going to do a lizard lunge, which means that the foot is on the outside of the hands or next to each other, and we're going to try and keep the back straight. So it may mean that you want to again get a block or something like that in order to be able to keep the back straight as you're doing this exercise, and make it a little bit easier for you. But we're going to then extend out the leg, and here I'm really trying to engage into my glute, and you'll feel it right on your hip flexors and that kind of area, and it's done by straightening out the leg and pushing the heel back. So you'll feel this both in your hips and in the hip flexor, your left leg. And I think the contraction of your glutes is really important on your left glute as you're doing this, and the reason for that is a process called reciprocal inhibition, which essentially means you're engaging the antagonist muscle, and that allows the main muscle you're working on to relax and gain more flexibility over time. When we've done those, we're going to come down, and you might want to just sit here and try and move around. But if you've got the flexibility, you can either use a block to do this or without, and you're going to lean on the floor, trying to keep the hips pretty square, out. You don't want to go too far out in this particular motion, and keeping your back as straight as possible as you're doing it. I'm just going to hang around here for a few seconds before we switch over onto the other side. Okay, moving on to the other side. Those pulses again. So for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then going into our lizard lunge. previous side. We're now going to come into a pigeon pose. If you've done a yoga class, the chances are you've probably done this. It's easiest if you bring in your leg. So it's a bit similar to the 1990s, just a bit more challenging than the 1990s that we did earlier. But you can make it easier by bringing your leg in. The harder versions will bring in your leg facing here. But one thing I found that really helped me as I was doing this was to have a block under my hips, and therefore I'm able to square off my body. We push the hips down and get much more engagement. And that's the thing with yoga, is often you do have to make the pose just that little bit easier in order to get better range of motion, and ultimately kind of affects the ego a little bit, definitely did with me, but it does really benefit you over time, and slowly but surely you're going to be able to lower the block height bit by bit, and you'll slowly but surely be able to get down and hold it without any block. So here I'm trying to lean, so I'm using my right leg in front of me. I'm trying to shift my hips so that my left leg and hip is pushing forward, and my right hip is pushing backwards as I'm doing it. Really trying to be engaging into those the whole time as I'm moving into it, and even pushing on with my left hand onto my right foot, pushing that back to the right, and almost trying to resist with the foot. That kind of engagement is really good for strengthening into your hips. And to twist over to the other side, do the same pose, using the same kind of assistance. I'm feeling a little bit less flexible on this side compared to today. But that's okay. Each side is going to be different, and you should just embrace it. The fact that nothing's going to be the same on either side, but it's working towards that consistency between the two, and over time you're going to see quite significant improvements. With your flexibility practice, you really want to try and do 10-15 minutes a day. I feel like people very much overestimate how much is needed. The key thing with flexibility is that you're being consistent, and little and often really is the key principles with your flexibility practice, rather than going into any major long workouts. That they can come later. If you're focusing on some really big flexibility goal, it's maybe when you want to do more challenging exercise, treat it more like a workout. In terms of daily mobility, you don't need that much, and it's not, flexibility isn't the same strength training. Fortunately with it, does mean that it takes a bit longer, but that's okay. It'll be all the more rewarding when you do actually get it. So with this one, we're going to come into kind of like half middle split, I guess. So you're going to have your knee and your foot stacked. You want to try and keep the foot on the floor, but equally if you're not used to it, then you can have them raised, and this foot's going to be out in like a frog position, so the foot isn't going to be directly behind the knee. And to keep my back straight, you might want to come onto all fours as you do it. We might want to keep straight. Now if you want to make this more challenging, we're going to try and do it without anything, and come up and extend such that the hips open, and come down and extend. So it's about 5 times, gets a bit more challenging, requires a bit more strength. You might want to do this just having something there to help you balance. But if that was too challenging for you, stay in the flexibility pose and move around in it. Find an area of discomfort and try and breathe into it. And then moving on to the other side. Then we're going to do these extensions. We're coming down and extending. Really trying to engage through the glutes and really have this whole left leg extended. Let's do that 2 more times. Extend and extend. Straight. Now I'm going to do one final exercise, which is just to start to build some pancake mobility. I feel like pancakes are a very challenging exercise to work on. It's very often that people will just lean forward and not actually just stretch the thoracic spine instead of stretching your hips. And so what we're going to do, which definitely requires blocks to you, pretty flexible. We're just going to try and start building some strength. It's going to be our last exercise of the session. And we're going to bring one block on the inside of the legs and one on the outside. And then we're going to lift up. And this will start with both feet staying on the floor, and it's just lifting your bottom up. And over time you'll be able to lift both legs even, and even do it in the middle and push up, and then go into things like shoulder press and all different things like that. We're going to start here, and so we're going to lean forward if you can. If you can't, that's okay. The key thing here is keeping your back straight as you do it. And we're going to lift up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we're going to switch. Do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You feel this a bit through your arms, but I think the key thing is kind of these abductor muscles and hip flexors. We're really trying to engage as you're going. I'm going to do a slightly more challenging version this time. You can just remove it without the blocks. And so I'm going to press down, lift both feet up. Equally, you can lift one foot up, or we can do the exercise that we did previously. Just go from side to side. If you're not using blocks, otherwise I'd probably say it's more quicker and efficient to do each side, like so. We'll do 4 more. 4, 3, 2, and 1. There we go, guys. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this short mobility session with me today. And if you've got any comments based on my teaching, then please leave them in the comments box below, and also give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.